And welcome back to Capitol Tonight. The Libertarian Party does not have official ballot status in New York, and according to the Board of Elections, its enrolled members number just under 2,500. But this tiny party nevertheless has 3 would-be governors vying to run on its line, and among them are the so-called Manhattan Madam, Kristen Davis, who claims to have supplied call girls for disgraced ex-governor Eliot Spitzer. The bodacious downstater is running on a platform of legalizing both prostitution and pot. There's also Guilderland Town Board member Warren Redlick and New York City resident Sam Sloan. The Libertarians are gathering tomorrow in Albany to pick their slate amid an internal battle over who's eligible to vote and a possible lawsuit over defamation. Here to discuss what promises to be a very interesting get-together is Eric Sundwall, the party's former chairman and Redlick's campaign manager. Eric, how you doing?
I'm very well, Liz. Thank you.
So, yeah, I don't even know where to start.
Well, you know, we're the Libertarian Party. You never know what's going to happen. We're the folks who nominated Howard Stern in 1994 and Bill Weld in 2006. So obviously we've got some kind of a cachet that people seek our nomination. And quite frankly, in New York, it's very difficult to get ballot access unless you kind of fuse yourself to one of the major parties. We're one of the few parties who just refuses to do that.
But did Weld take your line? He didn't.
He didn't in the end. He saw our nomination at convention, and he got it at convention. He later bailed out after promising that he would, in fact, keep going if he didn't get the Republican nomination. And in the end, we nominated one of our party stalwarts to kind of fill in the gap after that kind of went down.
So I actually covered that convention, and I remember there was a pretty prolonged discussion about the legalization of heroin. And there was, that's actually one of your platforms, and is the legalization of all drugs in general, correct?
Well, I think the principle involved there is that the ingestion of anything within your body is your business until it affects somebody else. Obviously, if you ingest heroin and go on a crime or a murder spree, you should be held accountable for that. The fact that you want to ingest heroin is really the individual's business. I think that's the notion that libertarians take into it. I, as a candidate in the past, I don't lead with that. It tends to be something like of a glass chin, if you will, if you're going to let yourself get hip with that.
Telling people you want to legalize drugs.
It immediately brings
yeah.
fear into the equation. Whereas, you know, we tried to bring principle before fear, but unfortunately, you know how the business goes. Fear is king.
Well, the principle is an ideology that government should stay out of people's lives in all aspects, right? That's the libertarian mantra.
It very much is, yes. To a certain degree, many libertarians argue the fact that government should only be there to protect individual rights, and that should be the base limit for what government should do. Subsequently, if you look at what we have for a government and that principle itself, we're very far removed from that.
So you guys actually have an interesting decision to make, because you have these candidates, these 3 candidates who want to get on your line. And in New York, because you mentioned a little bit of the very sort of arcane ballot rules that exist in New York, if you can get 50,000 votes for a candidate for governor on your line, you can get official party status for the next 4 years, which means then you have a bargaining chip, because we allow cross endorsements in New York, right? So
That's
the
correct.
next time around, you actually have major party candidates perhaps wanting to come and knocking on your door. It's a pretty powerful position to be in.
It would be a nice position to be in, and quite frankly, I don't know that we would use that position to do as you suggest, which is to let other major party candidates kind of roll in and take the line. Working Families Party, not Green Party really so much, but the Independence Party, they like to play that game. You know what I'd like to do? I'd like to be able to run for the congressional district in the 20th again without having to collect over 7,000 signatures in 12 days. Libertarians all over the state could have that opportunity and that option. And I think a lot of the times what you would see is we would probably just do that. We'd run our own candidates.
Well, it's a lot, but that would require changing the ballot access laws, which is not something that I think major parties would want to have you do.
No, not at all.
Point.
If we got the ballot access with 50,000 votes, we would be entitled to our own ballot line and our own individual candidates.
Yep.
There would be situations, I'm sure, where the cross endorsement would come into play. But on the other hand, we're very independent people, libertarians, and we'd love to have our own candidates often.
Okay, so to get that, one might argue that running a former Manhattan Madam, who is a pretty striking-looking individual, who has Roger Stone, a political consultant who's a fairly well-known guy, supporting her, if not directly working for her, and we won't get into that whole Michigas, but because we don't, it's a little confusing. But you could run, you might be able to run her on the other side, and you know, maybe have some penthouse pets and get name recognition. It would be a high optics candidacy. But then, on the other hand, maybe you want to go the serious route. It's a tough decision for you guys.
It is a tough decision. Quite frankly, I think what's going to happen now is that the Davis camp is not going to come to our convention and not seek the nomination because they're basically consigned to the fact that the Red Light campaign has wrapped it up at this point. So we may very well not even have them present. You can make the argument that she can get the 50,000 votes, but it's a tough metric. I know Roger Stone is a hardball player and he knows a lot, but he's traditionally worked in the Republican fields. Third-party fields are a lot more treacherous and they have a lot more minds in them. And there's no guarantee. There's no constituency that you can point to in the Davis campaign that they could really play on. They might get some high-profile, high-media impact, but sometimes bad media isn't necessarily a good thing.
So they're not going to come now? Is that what they're saying?
You know, my understanding right now is that they're not going to come. It's possible that at the last minute you never know who might show up to seek our nomination.
Right.
You know, my feeling is that may the best person with the best liberty pitch show up and be our person, if you will. But at this point, I don't know that they are actually going to show up. It's my impression that they are not at this moment.
Well, it will certainly be interesting to see what happens, and we will be checking in with you. Certainly, I will be checking in with you to see who ends up with the nomination.
And don't forget, Liz, remember when you were at the 2006 convention, you asked what NOTA meant, and none of the above is always an option for libertarians.
Oh, I forgot about that. None of the above. So you may very well have no one.
That's possible. You never know.
Eric Sundwall from the Libertarian Party, thank you very much.
Thank you, Liz.
Appreciate your time.